Hey everybody, Christopher K. Smith. This is my FibLines quarterly update for June 30th of 2019. So first a quick intro. What are FibLines? Well, FibLines are a technical study that you can apply to pretty much any chart that allow you to see chart action in a whole new light, particularly around likely areas of support and resistance. So the way it works is you start off with a chart like this, and you grab the Fibonacci retracements tool here in Thinkorswim, and you select 2 points on the chart that we'll call the 0 and 100% of the Fib sequence. When you do that, if you chose your 0 and 100% line successfully, you'll notice some amazing things is that prices tend to deflect sometimes at the 161%, 261%, and 423% of that initial 100% move. So there's a bit of an art to selecting those levels, but that's kind of what the Fib tool, FibLines tool does for you. It uses this Fibonacci retracements and embeds these levels, and so it puts these lines in the chart. And they have an uncanny ability to pick support and resistance points, as we'll see. So you can do that. You can draw that for every individual chart, and Thinkorswim will remember those lines for you. Or you can just add the FibLines indicator, which looks like this. And once you do that, you'll now see the FibLines applied to the chart. So there's 3 levels of lines, with the red lines that represent 0, 100, 161, 261, 423, and I think it's 686 and 1107 Fibonacci levels. And then the second level of lines is the orange lines, and those bisect the larger, the red lines at Fibonacci retracements percentages, and the same thing for the gray lines. There's actually 4 levels of lines you can turn it if you go all the way in. So what does this really do for you? Well, it allows you to see chart action in a whole new light, and we'll take a look at a few samples. So here's Roku, amazing move this year. I traded this earlier, but haven't been in it recently, unfortunately. But you see it ran right up to this 261% line. This was back in 10 of 2018. Sold all the way off with the rest of the market, and then moved right up, took out this high, and really just went on a complete tear up to the low 100s. I was into it, I think, from the 40s till about the 70s, but unfortunately I missed the second half of the move here. But it's amazing the way you can see it deflected right off of the 423% line here. So that's just one example. Another one that I've had some success with was PayPal, and I do these updates once per quarter, and actually was back in, I think, April of 2017. I noticed that PayPal was moving through this resistance area here. I think it was actually back in the 50s. And when it broke out of that area, I established a position. Now I'm up like something like 123% on PayPal over a 2-year period. It's been the right stock at the right time. The fundamentals have been good, and very interesting to take a look at recent price action here. Once we broke up through this $110 level, we ran right up to about 120, where we had a perfect 3-bar deflection right off of this orange line and fell right back here to support at the 113 area. So it's just amazing the way these lines dictate price action based on something that happened years ago. So looking at the longer term picture here, I think we have earnings coming up in PayPal on July 24th. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, wait to see what that happens. Now, in terms of the overall market, I probably should have started with the overall market before I got into individual symbols, but take a look at the SPY, long-term chart of that, and you can see, I think it looks like it's freezing. Let me just, oh, there we go. You can see in the longer term time frame, we are right at this resistance point here based on the FibLines indicator, and this is based on, I think, a high and low that we measured all the way back in, I think it was the 2009 to 2011 period. Let me see if I can go a little bit. See, I don't have a time frame bigger than monthly, than weekly in here, unfortunately. Yeah. So anyway, the long term is the conclusion is we're right up here at this long-term resistance on the SPY, and the SPY has been outperforming the IWM definitely, but basically we're right here at the quarter end. Also, it was June 30th on June 29th, end of the quarter. So everything looks really good right now. It's been an incredible year for stocks. Stocks are right up at all-time highs, at least as measured by the SPY. And at the end of the quarter, there's a lot of window dressing. So just be careful that the charts may look great right now, but sometimes when they look the best is when there's the most risk and volatility is lowest. Also, bonds have had an incredible year, riding right up along with stocks, and it's very rare to see both stocks and bonds. I mean, look at that move in bonds. This is the PIMCO. This is kind of what my bond proxy in my portfolio. Had a huge sell-off right when the rest of the stock market bottomed out back here, and I think it was December, and then ran all the way back up. So huge rally in stocks, huge rally in bonds. Go easy. Don't be too aggressive at this this point. Okay, we looked at Roku, we looked at PayPal. Amazon, of course, is a chronic favorite of mine. That's been up and down and all around. I definitely think we're going to go up and revisit that old, I think it's the 261 level here. We got the 100, 161, 261. Yeah, the old 423% line over here in 1997. So it's almost a certainty it's going to get back up there. It's just a question of when. Probably leading into earnings, which are coming up on 725. So like Amazon, great to play that with the weekly options also, where I like to sell them on Thursday and close them on Friday. Tesla has been a great trading stock also, and actually I did a trade with and was in correspondence with one of my FibLines subscribers about this individual one. Tesla had a wicked sell-off here earlier in the year, and I noticed it got right down to this old support level here, right around 191, which was the 261 level, and also had been a area of support in the past. So it occurred to me that this is probably a bottom for Tesla, and actually I sold, I think, a 190, 185 put credit spread and made a little bit of money on it. This goes to show you how you can use FibLines both in long-term investing and in short-term trading, because once those lines are calculated, they're there in any time frame, which is kind of interesting. Unlike most technical indicators, you switch to a 78-minute chart, and the lines are in exactly the same place as they would be on a daily chart or a weekly chart. So very interesting stuff there. So that's Tesla. Canopy Growth, CGC, is my proxy for the cannabis market. Canadian grower. I think I sold some 50 puts here and got assigned at like 47, so I'm down a bit on that position, but sticking with it for the longer term, I think that's going to be a good long-term position. Okay, new symbols added this quarter. UPS. I have a long position in UPS stock that I had for many years as a result of working for them. Back when you couldn't buy the UPS stock, you had to get it as being their employee. So I added that one. Transportation sector really has had a tough year. FedEx is also kind of in a house of pain. But the one that's doing well is Expeditors, EXPD. Much better than the other two, although you can see that recently bounced off a resistance here at probably its 423% line. So I added that one because I have a long position. I added a new position in IRBT. This was Carolyn Baroden from Simple Options pickup here. She pointed out the fact that the magnitude of these declines and subsequent reversals was pretty much matched by this decline as well. So I've been playing this one by selling 90, 85 put credit spreads, playing it to the long side. Earnings coming up here on 723, and that makes it a little tough as an option seller to have earnings coming up. But all right, that's IRBT. Another thing that I like to do is I like to scan the new all-time highs list, and I picked up this little beauty here called AVNR, AVNR, on the all-time high list. Excuse me, that's not it. It's AVTR. AVNR. So it's a recent IPO. Came public back here in June 17th of 2019 at about $14 a share. Ran all up to about 18. I think I picked some up at around just around high 18s. And this one has good ratings from the analysts. It's a specialty chemical producer. Their best competition is Thermo Fisher. I don't know a thing about that business. All I know is that analysts recommend the stock. It's an IPO. It's at all-time highs. It's under 20 bucks a share. This is how you don't want to load up on $300 stocks. You want to load up on stocks that are much earlier in their time cycle. And AVTR is my pick for now. But we're always scanning the new all-time high list, and a couple of picks I got from Danielle Shea from Simpler Options. And I don't have FibLines for these yet. PLNT, Fitness Planet, MDB, MongoDB looks like a really good stock. Already had a pretty big run. This is why it's important to scan stocks that are making new all-time highs when they're less than 100. Otherwise, they get away from you. And next thing you know, you don't notice them until they're like 150. So, actually, though, now that I look at it, the stock has been losing money for a long time here, so that's not a good thing. But what I could say though from charts is that you don't want to buy them when they've had big runs, like 8 consecutive runs. You want to buy them right at the point where they break out of the old recent resistance, which for MDB would be right about here. So that's my timing tip for you. Yeah, MDB, pay comps. That's pretty much it. So be cautious. There's always opportunity out there, but all the major indexes have had major runs. Stocks, bonds, gold, of all things, has had a huge run. Even Bitcoin is coming back. So it's really just explosion of assets. It's a feeding frenzy for assets. And I think Bitcoin, it's possibly something to do with China and their desire to diversify away from the dollar. But yeah, it's pretty rare to see all these assets going up at the same time. So just remember, we've always gotten a lot of big runs up in the summer, and it always ends badly in the fall. So just be cautious and be ready to go short when the time is right. On the Tasty side, I haven't really been doing that much. Haven't been doing that well, actually. I had to move $25,000 over there to get around that annoying day trader rule, even though I'm only using about $5,000 in capital. And at one point, I was up almost 10% on my $10,000. But I've taken a hit recently, and now I'm only up about $500 on a $10,000 basis. But when you look at the capital requirements, I only really putting $5,000 to work. So I guess it's really not all that bad. It hasn't been that great for option sellers lately because a lot of iron condors are just getting overrun. But I've been following the Tasty plan for the most part. And here's an example. I was talking about IRBT. I sold the 90.85 put credit spread in July. I think that's the July before the Friday before earnings come out. Also condors here in Uber and Lyft. Put one on Beyond Meat, and Netflix is kind of a good long-term one there. So that's it. So if you're interested in FibLines, you can get it on the FibTools sell store at fibtools.sells.com. I give away a bunch of stuff up there. The one thing I do sell is the FibLines indicator, which is $99 for 1 year of maintenance, and it includes 4 quarterly updates, of which this is one. And in that, I update and add new symbols. So the FibLines indicator itself has the FibLine values embedded in it for about 190 stocks. So all your big active stocks are in there, your Netflix, your Googles, your Facebooks, and also major stock indexes, futures, gold, currencies. It's pretty much all the major ones are in there, and I can add symbols for you if you want. And all you have to do is bring the chart up and think or swim, and those lines appear right where they should be based on the Fibonacci values. So that's it. Fibtools.sells.com if you're interested in following along. Thanks for watching, and have a great day and a great trading week ahead. Cheers.